Hey everyone, welcome back to Two Spot Monkeys Live. Happy to have you joining us here, episode number 28, as we close out the year 2020, the year that has felt like absolutely more than a year. Episode number 28, and we've got some feedback. But Jim, how are you?
We're good. Sorry, I pulled up the YouTube page so I could do that link thing I was telling you about, and didn't realize. Oh yeah, it's going to start talking.
Yes,
we run a high-priced operation here at Two Spot Monkeys. Lots of tech and.
If there was ever a way to close out the year that's been, I think that was fitting.
Right? Yeah. Total aside, as you know, Tom, and probably some of our listeners might know, I run a trivia company on the side. And I have a live event tomorrow night, which is a weekly booking at a tap room in the town nearby here. And we've been able to do that again since late summer, socially distanced. We don't pass in answer sheets. People score their own, all that kind of stuff. And one of my topics for tomorrow night, I just simply called dumpster fire, and then in parentheses put 2020 in review. So, yeah, I agree. And hey, why not have a moment like that here on the podcast? But we are recording our last episode of 2020. This is it for 2020 for us. We're not recording over the next 2 days. So we know this will be the last episode. We should start off on a somber note. We'd be remiss to not mention the passing over the weekend of Brody Lee. We had even mentioned Brody Lee a couple of weeks back when we were talking AEW and just kind of curious about his absence. Now it's come out that he's been in the hospital since October, late October, with whatever that non-COVID related lung issue was, that unfortunately ended up taking his life over the weekend. And I don't know, Tom, if you have any Brody Lee stories, but my favorite memory from a wrestling but non-wrestling of Brody Lee, my brother and I were attending, so this involves my brother too. So, hey, there's, all sorts of synergy. But we were attending a Dragon Gate USA show in Milwaukee a number of years back. It was the Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley. I think it was like a Falls Count Anywhere or something match. And the ring didn't show up for the show. So they were scrambling like heck to get a ring. And they ended up getting Skull Crusher Rasky Brown's ring because he happens to live in Milwaukee and has a school. So they ended up getting his ring, and the ring shows up like an hour after bell time. And so we're all standing outside. Gabe had come out and was telling everybody what was going on. They really handled it very well. But so they get the ring there, and literally like the entire roster, minus Bryan Danielson, interesting, who was back under contract and was the U.S. champion in WWE at that point, but was finishing those commitments back up. The whole roster comes out to unload this truck, which is parked right in front of the venue, right where we're all standing in line. That's the only way in. And Brody Lee and Jon Moxley walked right past us to go grab a guardrail or a piece of the ring or whatever. And Brody goes, "Hey, Milwaukee, yeah." And we all popped, and, it was fun. I couldn't tell you who he faced on that show. I'd have to go back and look at the card for it. The only match I remember on that show for sure was Danielson and Moxley, but he knew we were standing out there, and you could just tell it meant a lot to them. I think that we all had, nobody was chanting refund or anything stupid. So we waited, and it was a heck of a show. We had a good time, but it would have been at the same venue that you and I and some others for my bachelor party went to a Chikara show a couple of years later. So for reference, but Brody Lee was a heck of a talent, and he's going to be missed big time. And AEW is doing a big show on Wednesday night for him, rightfully so. Tom, any thoughts on Brody Lee?
Yeah, so very sad, and there have been so many touching things written in the last number of days. It's hard to not read those and be moved. And some of them moved me more than others, and some have just been. It's a big celebration of a life that has ended far too soon. And irony is not the right word, but interestingly enough, earlier this year, when he made his debut with AEW, he wasn't a talent that previously I was like always into or, saw all of the gifts and talents that he had in the ring. But at the same time, I think there's talents that you come around to every once in a while. So I was ready to give him a shot. Was ready to give him his due and see what he could bring to the table in AEW, especially because he gambled on himself, left a job with WWE, which few take the chance on doing, and he wanted to prove his merit and his value elsewhere. And in wanting to see more of him and maybe like think about what his run was like for all the time he was with WWE before this rebirth of his career. There was a match that someone I follow on Twitter had like tweeted about or retweeted or something, and that match is from Battleground 2014, July 2014. The match is the Usos versus Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. It's a 2 out of 3 falls match for the tag titles, almost 20-minute match. It's a masterpiece. It's actually probably one of the best matches I can honestly say I've ever seen. And I don't know that I ever watched it live when it happened, but if that doesn't ring a bell, either to you, Jim, or to anyone who's listening, I really encourage you to go back. If you have the network, or if you have the means to find it on YouTube, maybe that still exists. Watch that match because it's a great match. You'll be enthralled, but then you'll also really see a spotlight of the talent that Brody Lee, Luke Harper was. And I'm really looking forward to, sadly and somberly, I'm looking forward to AEW and their tribute to him tomorrow night. You never want to see these things. You think about the Eddie Guerreros and other talents that we've lost far too soon. I say we, like there are so many people beyond you and me that are hurting much greater than we can even begin to think about. But at the same time, we're fans and we do invest in these talents, but they're also human outside of the persona they play. So it's the stark reality when you realize like a wife and 2 kids lost their dad. So
yeah, that's the tough part of it too. And just a tough go of it. I really feel like he was really starting to kind of hit a stride. Of course, I know he lost the TNT title in his last match, what ended up being the last match of his career. But I had hoped they were going to come back strong with him. Obviously, a few weeks later, some things changed. Everything I've read says, he was going to be off for a couple of weeks to sell the brutality of the dog collar match. And then that was when he started having some issues breathing and whatever this lung issue was. And, I don't want to go off on a tirade here. There is a reporter from PW Torch, Bruce Mitchell is his name. I'll name names, who wrote an article within the day after Brody Lee died and basically hinted at, even though they were saying it was non-COVID related, maybe it really was, and they shouldn't be hiding this and, all of this. Shut up. They've said it's not COVID related. And after that, we have no right to know anything. And we don't even have a right to know that. It's personal. Whatever his wife wants to reveal, she has the right to reveal. And whatever she doesn't want to reveal, she has absolute right not to reveal. And that's not a HIPAA thing. That's not anything. I work in the healthcare industry. HIPAA has to do with a healthcare provider giving out information. But it's just respect. And, whether it's COVID or not. And I think his inference was if it was COVID, he must have gotten it at AEW, and AEW now should shut down because they had somebody die from COVID because he worked their shows. Like, we're jumping so many steps ahead on that. I don't think his wife would lie about it. Like, what does she have to gain in that? Come on. And I just think it's insensitive and stupid to speculate on those kinds of things. The fact is, like you said, a wife and 2 sons lost their dad and their husband. That's the important thing above any wrestling thing. This is also non-important compared to that. So soapbox, there it is. I don't really know how to segue from that to anything else. So we're just going to take the hard turn and go with it. We can say Brody would have wanted it that way, and he probably would have. But we're just going to take the turn We're going to take some time today to look back a little bit at the year that was, the dumpster fire of a year, as we've said, that 2020 was, and do some kind of award conversations. I don't know that we'll crown awards, but we'll at least have some conversation around a few topics. We're going to look ahead to 2021, throw some maybe crazy predictions out, maybe realistic, maybe who knows what. Tom and I don't even know probably what we're about to say on that one. And then we're going to start head-to-head for our January through June 2021 head-to-head. Our friend Annette was so nice to post a picture of you and your picks being Randy Orton and me and my picks being The Fiend, birding. So that would pretty well sum up July through December. But the beautiful thing is we're going to start 0-0 here, and we've got 11 matches to pick over 2 nights of Wrestle Kingdom. So we've got – somebody could end up in a real hole to start this year. But my guess is we'll also have quite a few matches that we agree on winners. So it'll be a fun way to get things started. But before we get to all of that, Wrestle Kingdom and predictions, let's talk 2020, the dumpster fire of a year that was. I'm going to change the order just slightly, Tom, in what I did before, what we talked about before. And let's start with Tag Team of the Year. We didn't talk about who was going to go first or anything, so I'll just say, I think this year was a pretty good year for tag teams, to be perfectly honest. I think AEW has an outstanding tag division that actually is getting even deeper now. I think both the Acclaimed and Top Flight look like they're going to be really, really good. They're already really good. And I think you give those guys more time in the ring with folks the caliber of the Young Bucks and FTR and Jericho and all of them. I mean, how can they not get it right? So I think we've got a tag team division in AEW that's just getting better by the minute. The tag team division in WWE has been there, and maybe could use some work. And the tag team division in Ring of Honor is a hot mess right now. I think they're starting to rebuild it, and it's going to take time. They're not going to be able to fix that in a day. But it's a little messy right now in tag teams. For me, if I had to name my 2 top tag teams of the year, I would go the Young Bucks, because every time out, I just think they're really, really good. It's hard not to put the Young Bucks in that conversation. And I would put the Street Profits in that conversation as well, because much like them, they ruled both on SmackDown and Raw after a riveting title change when they switched brands, that 8-second hand the belts over to each other stupidity that they did. That notwithstanding, the Profits, I thought, had an excellent year as well. So, Tom, what did you think of the tag team scene in 2020?
Yeah. So, prefacing this entire conversation, it's going to be interesting because I really look at this last year with 2 different sets of glasses on. January through mid-March, felt and was completely different. Mid-March to now, we've lived it. we've lived it. So it's weird. It feels really weird, and it feels like more than a calendar year for me personally. So I was having a hard time when I was listening to you. I was like grateful that you mentioned so many teams, because I was struggling thinking of like the teams that stuck out for me. But one did come to mind that's different from what you shared, but I will parrot you and say the Street Profits probably are or were like the most consistent tag team of the year. And I love them for a long time, but I wasn't even thinking about them. So I'm glad that they are where they are. And I actually was thinking about them earlier today when I was thinking about what we were going to talk about and all of the things. And like, I won't use this, but I had in my mind come up with the idea that I'd love to see them be like more serious, or have a tag team in WWE that like really is focused on proving they're the best, like almost like Heart Foundation-esque as a comparison. Unfortunately, that's not the way that wrestling in WWE works anymore. So, but the Profits I thought would be a great fun way to fit that mold, because I think that while you can have the entertainment aspect of Ford and Dawkins, I think they could both turn it on and be incredibly sports centric or athletic centric, and driven by wins, or motivated by wins, if you will. My other team that I'll mention is actually Jurassic Express of Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus. I think almost every time I saw them as a team in AEW, I walked away really impressed. Now, I was a fan of them before all of this, and before the year unfolded the way it did. But there's so much of a ceiling for them to continue to rise within, and I'm hopeful. That's allowed for them to happen in 2021.
And they've got a match coming up. It'll be now January 13th with the move back of New Year's Smash with FTR. So I think they could start the year off in a big way. The other one I would give honorable mention to is you were talking, popped into my head. And by the way, we have 2 live viewers, so hello to whoever you are, whether we know you or not. Thanks for being along for the ride here live on YouTube tonight. The other tag team I would mention would be Zack Sabre and Taichi. I think they've had a good run. I haven't seen a lot of the Road 2 shows. In fact, I've seen none of the Road 2 shows in between the main shows, and I missed all of the World Tag League, let's be honest. But I hear they've had a really nice run. So, and what I've seen has been good. We'll talk more about them, though, as we get to Wrestle Kingdom here in just a few minutes. Match of the year would be the next thing to talk about. And Tom, I think you brought it up perfectly that it's the tale of two types or times of the year. It's really hard to compare the matches of the pandemic era, if you want to call it, from the time that everything went with no crowds to now the Thunderdome and some places having crowds and some places having partial crowds and whatever, to what happened January through mid-March, as you said, because let's be honest, a crowd can really add or take away from a match as it's happening. So this is tough for me. I can tell you that the Street Profits and Viking Raiders will not make, it to my top ones. But we do have somebody who left a comment, do score 2010. I'm not sure who that is. It says, Spot Monkeys, I'm dead tired. Bed is calling, but I'm watching. So thanks for being here.
That's a net.
That's a net. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for being here, Annette. And yes, the dulcet tones of Tom and I may drift you off to sleep, or we may bore you off to sleep as we talk here. Who knows?
Sleep's overrated. It's okay.
Sleep's overrated. That's right. Sleep's for chumps. You can sleep next year. So match of the year, Tom. I'm at a loss a little bit, but the two that come to mind are the Young Bucks versus Hangman Page and Kenny Omega. That tag team match, I think, was this year. Sometimes it's hard to remember what happened this year or last year anymore. But that was an excellent, excellent tag team match. And I had another one in my head.
Was that the first 7-star match? I
believe. And if it would have been in the Tokyo Dome, it would have been 9, from what I hear. So I'm sorry, I'm stealing Bruce Pritchard's gimmick here. But it was a heck of a tag team match. There's no question about it. The other one that sticks out to me, and maybe it's a recency bias, but is Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor. They had an absolutely awesome match, and I'm really looking forward to the rematch here in a week. So those are kind of the two matches that stick out to me. Again, Street Profits and Viking Raiders, notwithstanding, with the stupid octopus in the trash can or whatever in the world happened there.
Your favorite trash monster,
Right. If we did the worst of 2020, that would probably be it, even though it wasn't an official match, apparently.
Well, so I bucket these. Interestingly enough, I have been for the last 3 to 4 years been doing a running log of every match that I've watched in a given year. The goal was
doing that this year. I want to do it again next year now.
Yeah, and so here's the irony. I think I'm going to stop, but who knows, right? I have a couple days to figure this out. The whole goal was to see if I could watch 1,000 matches over the course of a calendar year, and I think the first 2 years I was pretty unsuccessful. Even though I think if you average about 3 matches a day, you should be good. But again, ebbs and flows in life, and sometimes you just don't watch wrestling because you want to watch This Is Us.
You want to? Or, well, anyways, let's not put that on tape.
So on that list, and I've surpassed 1,000 this year. Big surprise. There was a layoff for my job and a stay-at-home order, so I had a lot of time on my hands in late winter, early spring into late spring. I also keep track of what I thought were the matches of the year, or matches that really stuck out to me, and I did my best to rank them. It's funny, I look back at this list and I'm looking at it now. I stopped. I feel like I stopped adding things like in October, and I don't think that that's because I didn't enjoy wrestling. I think that I just was so like invested in just watching and chunking through a lot of wrestling that I don't know that I paid maybe enough attention to match quality as I might have earlier in the year. So without further ado, I'm gonna give my 5 matches of the year, if you don't mind. And
Yeah.
I have 3 that are numbered because they actually happened with fans, and I have 2 that are starred because they happened during the pandemic. So number 1 on the list is, actually, I'm going to go in reverse order. I lied. Sorry. Number 5 on the list is Shingo Takagi versus Okada from the G1 Climax on October 10th. Then you have Tetsuya Naito versus Okada from Wrestle Kingdom on January 5th. Then I have Hiromu Takahashi versus Will Ospreay from night 1 of Wrestle Kingdom, so 1/4/20. Kyle O'Reilly versus Finn Balor, Takeover 31, October 4th. And then my match of the year, nothing, in my opinion, displaced this, pandemic or not, and that was Ibushi versus Okada from the January 4th Wrestle Kingdom show. And again, I preface all of this, as I'm sure you would too. Unfortunately, you and I both have lovely wives that we have to be responsible for, to care for, love on, give them our time, not just wrestling. We also have jobs and other commitments. So I would love to watch everything under the sun. I would love to watch All Japan and Noah and everything AEW. And I think I watch a lot. But I don't watch it all. So and again, until your profession is professional wrestling, in some form or fashion, I don't think that you can state a claim at really like saying what the absolute penultimate match of the year would be. But for what you see, you and what you like versus what I like, could be completely different. If I had Profits, Raiders, Trash Monster match of the year on top, that's my prerogative. I don't, but
Absolutely. You know what? And I hope somebody liked that. I really do. Because otherwise, why should they do it? And I mean, granted, I might ask, why should they do it at all? But that's me. And so that, that's the one thing too that I will say about matches and about companies and about everything is, if you like it, good. And I'm not going to tell you you're wrong for liking it. There's too much of that on the internet, in general, whether it's about wrestling or life or politics or anything else. But yeah, if retribution is really clicking for you, God bless you. I mean, I don't know how, but God bless you. And if you love the Street Profits and Viking Raiders and the Ninjas and the Trash Monster, okay. We just have very different tastes, and that's fine. So that's my piece on that. Annette did jump in with a comment too, and say, "Happy wife, happy life." Ain't that the truth? Preach. The last award or conversation for 2020 that we want to talk about is Wrestler of the Year. And I think there are a number of folks who are in the conversation here and should be in the conversation here. I have to say, first of all, I happen to see that Impact Wrestling is announcing their awards on their recap show that they did last Tuesday and then again tonight. And last Tuesday, they announced their Wrestler of the Year and Knockout of the Year were both Deonna Purrazzo, which I thought was kind of cool that they gave her Wrestler of the Year as well. And the little bit I've seen and from what I've heard about Purrazzo, I can't argue with it. She's good. She's darn good in the ring. I don't see Impact regularly because I don't have access. I don't have access to access. But So I can't, it's hard for me to put Perazo on my list because I just haven't been exposed to her work enough since she's left WWE. She was good in WWE. They horribly misused her. Shocking. But kudos, I think, to Impact for naming her Wrestler of the Year. I think that was pretty cool to think about, and probably pretty deserved. From what I know of Impact, while they've had a lot of good matches, Perazo's probably had the best ones. So for me, this can go a few different ways. I think Drew McIntyre has to be in the conversation. McIntyre's had a great year, from winning the Rumble to winning the title. As he said on Raw last night, he won the title, then he lost the title for a couple of weeks, then he won the title back, which I thought was kind of an interesting, yeah, that happened. But let's forget it happened. But he's also had really good matches along the way. His title matches have all, maybe I'm saying all, might not be right, but they've mostly been good to great matches. They've felt like championship matches, which has been really cool. So I would definitely have Drew McIntyre on that list. I think you got to have Roman Reigns on that list. Well, he hasn't had a ton of work rate matches. He's always been very, very good in the ring, and I think he's gotten a bad rap for that for years. And his character development has been phenomenal. He's the best thing. I think he's the best thing going in WWE right now. Not a high bar to hit some days, but high bar or not, I think he's been the best thing going. And then my other would be, I love me some Kota Ibushi, and I'm a little bit mad that I didn't even think about that Ibushi-Okada match for Match of the Year, because it's kind of the obvious one, but sometimes January seems so long ago, and this year January really seems a long time ago, as you said, Tom. But Kota Ibushi, I mean, the guy's just awesome. I'm looking forward to him here next week in Wrestle Kingdom. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, well, I don't think he would win a Wrestler of the Year competition. The other guy who I absolutely love everything I see him do is Shingo. You and I are both Shingo fans. They got to get him moved this year out of the never open weight division and into, maybe if the Intercontinental title and World title maybe split again or something. I don't know. Move that guy up the card. It's time. But who were your top wrestlers of the year, Tom, as you watched?
For sure, yeah. So I'll agree with you on Drew McIntyre without a doubt. He was going to be one of the top names on my list. I think Roman Reigns is super interesting because it's very much two sides of the coin. You think about Roman Reigns pre WrestleMania, because he was supposed to be at WrestleMania and big match with Goldberg, and then it doesn't happen, and then he's gone. And then you never see it coming. And we joke about that a lot, but that was the tagline, and that was the payoff. And then he returns, and yes, I agree. He has been arguably, character-wise, the absolute best thing, I believe, what WWE has done from August until now. I'm glad you had Shingo on that list, because he would have been a guy that I would have thrown on there. So I will not continue to parrot you and mimic your answers. I'll give you some of my own. I think Asuka deserves mention on this list without a doubt. I think Asuka is, and hopefully continues to be, but with a little bit of reserve, one of the workhorses, if not the workhorse of the women's division. And gosh, she was almost there every single week. It was without fail. Asuka was very steady and very very regular, but solid performer all year long. So Asuka for sure. Darby Allin for me deserves to be on this list without a doubt. I think I don't know where they're going to go and how they're going to tell the story, but calling him the face of TNT and having him be the TNT champion and the Sting connection and all that other stuff. There's a lot there, and he's obviously clearly marketable. That was proven and proofed before no fans or limited fans could attend shows, and I think that star just rises. A guy I want to throw on the list because it's just been amazing for me, and it really resonates, and it's a tune-in factor. Eddie Kingston. And it's not even a full year when you think about it. Like, you think about what he did August on, September on.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, yeah, it's it's believable. It's real for me. So Eddie Kingston on that list. Will Ospreay, and that'll be my last one. Just when he came back in the G1, just amazing. And unfortunately, I haven't seen much of what he's done with his heel turn after at the end of G1 and where we're headed now. But I know as we talk about Wrestle Kingdom here momentarily, it's one of the matches I'm most looking forward to and one of the performers I'm most looking forward to.
Absolutely. There's a whole bucket full of Wrestler of the Year possibilities. Ray Phoenix could be in there. Hard to say of the year because of the start of the year. Maybe it didn't feel quite that way, but Kenny Omega could absolutely, I think, be in that conversation. Certainly, since the number one contenders tournament, his matches have been, he wants to be the best bout machine again, quote unquote, and he's been doing it. He's been having those matches. Him and Phoenix is going to be really good here in another week or so as well. Looking forward to that big time as well. Well, let's break off from 2020, and don't we all want to do that? But start talking 2021. And before we get to Wrestle Kingdom, Annette was the one who threw out that she hoped there'd be some predictions, and we thought, yeah, that'd be fun. We haven't talked at all about how many predictions we each want to make. How about 3 or 4? How's that sound to you, Tom?
Sounds good. I'll try to come up with 3.
Okay. All right. Good. Well, I've got one, and I think it's a safe one, but I'm going to make it anyways because, hey, at least if we look back at this in December of 2021, we can say I got one right. But Adam Page is going to be the AEW World Champion sometime in 2021. I think he most likely is the one to take it off of Kenny Omega at some point down the road. This Omega story's got legs. It's this is not going to be a short title reign for Kenny Omega. At least I don't think it will be. And judging from where I drafted him in our fantasy wrestling league, I certainly hope it isn't. But I think, maybe Double or Nothing or maybe even All Out. I think Adam Page is the guy they're building and that will eventually become the AEW World Champion this year. Adam Page is a guy who in Ring of Honor, I was always a little like meh about. And when he came over to AEW, I was still kind of this, you could kind of tell they were behind him. And I thought, this is the guy for a little while, I thought, are they going to put the belt on him to start? Like that doesn't make any sense. And then realized, no, they're probably going to put it on Jericho. That makes sense at the start to have somebody who's established and can build the prestige of that title. And Jericho did a nice job of that. But I don't think that was all by mistake to have Page involved in all of that. And I think Page will eventually get himself back there and win the title.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I see that happening too. I like your timeline. I love long-term storytelling. So the more you can give me AEW, the better. Make me want to pay to see Kenny Omega drop that title, please. I'm gonna kind of go 2 for 1, but I feel like this is like a maybe 60-40. You're gonna have either Shingo or Sonata win the IWGP title this year. And when I say 60-40, I'm probably 60 for Sonata and 40 for Shingo. I agree with you in what you stated earlier about you got to move them past the never open weight. I hope that doesn't happen next week yet, but at some point, yes. But yeah, I think one of those two guys, I've been waiting for Sonata to break through for a while, and I think we're on the cusp of that. But we'll see. So that's my first one.
That's your first one. My second one, I'm going to jump over. By the way, comment came in from Annette Moxley. She questioned maybe back in the Wrestler of the Year, I think, conversation. Moxley absolutely should be in that conversation as well. Oversight there. He's had a heck of a year. And I'm going to talk more about Jon Moxley a little bit later on. Spoiler alert. Perhaps. Another prediction for me. So I'm going to jump over into another love that you and I both have, which is wrestling figures. And I hope I'm right about this. I probably would have made this prediction a year ago. Now, who knows what plans got all screwed up by COVID this year on things that different companies might have wanted to do. But I'm hoping that 2021 is when we get another set of Legion of Doom or Road Warrior figures. We haven't had them for quite a while. Road Warrior Animal was in the concussion lawsuit, which has since been settled. So you would think that their estates now, because unfortunately with Animal's passing, Both of them are gone. You would think their estates would be back in the good graces and could sign with Mattel or WWE if they wanted. But I wouldn't be shocked if it's Storm Collectibles or even Super 7, who, of course, is working on the New Japan figures, but also put out an Andre the Giant from his younger years. So they're looking, obviously, to branch a little bit there. Storm has done the Hulk Hogan figures along with the Jushin Liger figures. I hope we get Legion of Doom figures. I don't own any Legion of Doom figures, and they're my all-time favorite tag team. So that's just wrong. I should have them. And most of them now are stupid expensive. So I'm going to spend that money. I want really good ones. So I want Storm or Super 7 or somebody. Mattel would be great. Maybe Jazzwares, even if there's a Legends line that comes out in the AEW line, which has been rumored for a while now. And, you know, with all the legends they have around AEW, that makes some sense. Animal did appear at, was that at All In? I think actually he appeared, but he's at least touched that organization a little bit before his passing. So I want Road Warrior figures.
Yeah, that's fun. And when we talked about them last week with the wrestling buddies or the pseudo wrestling buddies. So my next one, it's going to be foot and mouth, I think, but I'm willing to put it there. CM Punk's going to return to wrestling in 2021. And if I had to be pinned down to the organization, I would say it's going to be AEW.
That is a prediction. Absolutely. I do think that if he comes back, I think you're right. It would be interesting to see. He has said that it would take two things for him to come back. It would take something that's really interesting and a truckload of money. Tony Khan's got a truckload of money. So we check that one off the needs list. Vince McMahon's got a truckload of money too. Either one of them can pay him if they want to. My guess is he would have tons more freedom in whatever story he might be involved in with AEW than he would WWE. Thought I was going to sneeze there for a minute. Sorry if anybody was watching and looked like I just, had an episode. So my third and final prediction, I've been going back and forth on this one a little bit to kind of try and figure out what I want to say or where do I want to go with this prediction. Because, hey, it's all in fun, right? I've got some kind of safe ones, like Jonathan Gresham's going to win the Ring of Honor World Title. I think you and I both agree on that. I think that's like we both kind of have talked about that before. But let me go a little crazy with mine. You went CM Punk. Let me go a little bit crazy, not with a return, but how about this? Adam Cole will win the WWE or Universal title at some time in 2021. I hope I'm right about that. My fear is whenever the Undisputed Era comes up, he'll be lucky if he ends up just in the kind of ricochet area of maybe touching the U.S. or Intercontinental title here and there, but not really pushed. It would be a darn shame if they do that because Adam Cole is super talented. He can talk like nobody's business. He can work like nobody's business. So I'm going to go on a limb. I may be way early on getting this anywhere near right, but Adam Cole, baby, becomes either WWE or Universal. More likely Universal because I think he'd have a shot on SmackDown. I can't see him doing it on Raw because of the way Vince treats those shows. But I'm going to go with Adam Cole as a world champion.
I'm envisioning that in my head, and I like the way it looks. The path to get there, wow. Right. I mean, because again, this is not the let's string WWE up like a piñata and beat them with a bat podcast, but it happens. So, I mean, what can we say?
Here's my question: why don't they just 1 year take somebody like an Adam Cole out of NXT, or that you've just signed AJ Styles a few years back when he came in 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever it was? Have them come in and debut on the main card at the Rumble, win the Rumble, and go on to win the title at Mania. They're a made person at that point if you do it right. You could do something so cool with that. And Adam Cole would be a perfect example of somebody that could do that. Man, they missed the boat on that one big time.
Yeah, for sure. I have a couple things running through my mind. I don't know which is the best one or which one is buzzworthy is the wrong term, but let's say that we're going to have women main event SummerSlam in some capacity. I'm not sure who. Maybe Charlotte and Rhea. Might be time for them to come back together 15 months, 16 months, 18 months after the first time. Especially if they don't touch between now and then. That would be fun. And secondary prediction there, I think because we won't be, unfortunately, out of the woods with the pandemic despite the vaccine, I'm going to say SummerSlam's an outdoor show too.
I think you're right. I think WWE has already kind of tipped their hat that they're not expecting to get back to, quote, regular touring house shows and all of that kind of stuff until 2022. I think they will try as they can, though, to have some fans in the crowd for WrestleMania, for SummerSlam. I don't know about every month's pay-per-view, but I think at least for the big ones, they're going to, try and ramp that up as they can as things go along. We'll see how that goes. But I think an outdoor show makes a lot of sense. And in the summer, you got lots of options where you can do that. So even more than you do in the spring, or certainly in the fall or winter. January, you're a little more limited in your outdoor venues for the Rumble, but that neither being here nor there. Well, there they are. 2021 predictions sure to go wrong. Now watch, none of those things happen. I think the Adam Page one, maybe I got a shot there, but all right. It is time. Drum roll, please. For head-to-head 2021 A. 2021.1, the way that we do our fantasy wrestling league seasons. This will run from January to June through the end of June, and we will keep track as we have before. And we usually always put a wrestler or a shirt or something, or at least that value amount on the line between ourselves. Tom and I also have a fantasy football bet that we have every year between the leagues that we're in, and he also whooped my tail in that this year. So, Tom, I don't know, can you reach your Kyle O'Reilly there for anybody who's still watching on YouTube? This was the fantasy football winning. Yeah, I know. I always move things the wrong way too, Tom, so don't feel bad. The Kyle O'Reilly Chase Elite was just delivered today after the first one showed up and it wasn't the Chase, so we had to work with Ringside to get the right one back, but they actually were very good about it and took care of it right away. So kudos to Tom on that, and we'll be talking about whether I'm sending you money or what I'm doing for whooping my tail in head-to-head. But it's time to start the redemption tour. So we're going to start at 0-0, and we're going to talk about Wrestle Kingdom night 1 and night 2. We do have a few matches. We're gonna predict 11 matches in total. We have a few matches that we're not going to predict because they're just it's too hard to know who's in them, kind of thing. And we'll start off with that. With on night 1, the pre-show match, although it'll be live on New Japan World at some ungodly hour in the morning here in America, is the New Japan Rambo, and I just put for fun on the banner here on the YouTube side. In that we're not predicting who's going to, we can predict who might be in the last 4, but this is not counting in our head-to-head competition. They have not announced anybody for this match, but the last 4 people in this match will advance to night 2 to determine who the first King of Pro Wrestling, or KOPW champion for 2021 is. Toru Yano was crowned the official King of Pro Wrestling 2020 at their last Road 2 show. He won his defense against Bad Luck Fale. He does not lose that title. It's just a new title every year. So it's kind of like if they had a King of the Ring and then you defended it throughout the year. And at the end of the year, whoever holds it is the actual final champion, I guess. I would say, in looking at the cards as they're designed, I would be stunned if Toru Yano is not one of the last 4 people in this match and moves on to Wrestle Kingdom night 2, because he does not have a match on either of these shows. So Yano, to me, and we're just kind of talking through these, Tom, since we're not picking. Yano, I would think Ishii has a good shot at being there. Let's see. Let me throw a really random, like Yujiro Takahashi maybe gets there. And then I'm going to go Sho for the other one, because I think Sho has had a really good year. And he doesn't have a spot here at Wrestle Kingdom, so I think he would make some sense 2. So I just throw those 4 for what they're worth at somebody. There are a number of other people, if I sat here and just started running down names, that I wouldn't be shocked either to see who don't have maybe a spot. I certainly expect to see them in this match and could see them moving on. Anybody sticking out kind of in your head as you're thinking about folks who might be in that KO?
Yeah, I love Ishii. I love Sho. So if they're both in it, I'll be very happy. I'll be interested to see. For me, the thing I am most interested to see, I should say, is if they go a different direction with the KOPW title in 2021. Of course, Yano's had it since he won it in August, and again, that expires here in a couple of days, and it's been marked by very regular Toru Yano-isms. I was trying to work through that speech piece to get that out. And it's been entertaining. Again, I know people really either are into it or they're not into it. Color me as, hey, I want to have variety. And so I can use that time when he does his thing to go, all right, I can just take off the serious lenses for a second and enjoy this. So, but that being said, it'd be interesting to see them do something different this year and have it be, I don't want to say more competitive, but they could really do something interesting in the division, or in this kind of venue, for lack of a better term, by changing the way that the title is fought for, or why, or how, or what. So,
and we'll mention it again here when we get to night 2 and see if either one of us want to throw just a random prediction that isn't going to count in our head-to-head of who we think might win the KOPW to start 2021. I will say one thing. Here's a prediction for 2021. Yano won the belt, or won the trophy. I'm sorry, it's trophy, and then never lost it. I do think we'll see a change of the trophy sometime in 2021. I don't think somebody holds it the entire calendar year. Maybe even as soon as New Year's Dash. They could. Geto sometimes does these weird flash title changes, so who knows? He could do something crazy like that. Just don't turn it into a 24/7 title. That's all I'm asking. Don't do that. All right, so the first match that we're going to pick, now there are 11 matches. We didn't decide, Tom, who's going to pick first when we go head-to-head here on actual picks.
We didn't. You're right. I don't know.
So champ's decision. Do you want to pick first, or do you want me to pick first for the first match?
I want to pick first because we talked about this before we recorded. I feel very ill prepared for this. I don't think I'm going 0-11, but watch as I've just put that into the atmosphere.
Right.
When we come back,
I think we'll probably have the same winner a couple of times.
when we come back next week, I might be wearing a hood of shame over my face.
Jim has an 11-match lead as we move into the next show for 2021.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is, if nothing else, Rumble is a spot with if we are creative with how we do pick for Rumble, I'll be able to close the gap, or you will, perhaps. We'll see.
Right.
So first match is the best of the Super Junior winner versus the Super J Cup winner. And the winner of this match gets the junior title shot on the next evening. So you've got Hiromu Takahashi versus El Phantasmo. I'm excited for this match. I love juniors action. I'm super glad that Takahashi came back, and I think he's still a little nuts, and the style makes me concerned for his long-term well-being. But for the here and the now, let's hope that these two shows aren't the end of that good well-being. I'm going to pick him to overcome Phantasmo and set himself up for that shot at Ishimori on night 2.
Yeah, and so here's the thing. You and I are going to go the same on this one. So, if you go 0 for on this one, I'm going 0 for 2. The story is Takahashi and Ishimori. The title, the thing that would be nice about El Phantasmo winning would be someone fresh in that division, because I think that belt has been a little bit stale with Ishimori and Takahashi, but they're just so darn good. And Wrestle Kingdom tends to just go for what's so darn good. I think this will be really good. Both guys are really good in the ring. I'm a huge Hiromu Takahashi fan. I have the Series 1 New Japan figures are on pre-order. The Ishii, Okada, Ospreay and Tanahashi figures. Out of Series 2, I'll be honest, Hiromu Takahashi is the one I want. I haven't pre-ordered it yet. With some of my winnings for fantasy football this year, maybe I'll be getting on that here in the next little bit. But I love Takahashi. I think he's fun, and he's just dang good in the ring. So it's not just wacky goofiness, but it's wacky goofiness who can absolutely back it up in the ring. And I think Takahashi Ishimori makes the most sense on night 2 rather than Phantasmo. Phantasmo hasn't worked in Japan really much at all since the pandemic, and has been on strong and won the USA Super J Cup. But Takahashi is my pick as well here to move on to night 2. That brings us to the first title match that we'll be picking, the IWGP Tag Team title match between Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi, whose team name is I am drawing a blank on right now. Do you remember their team name, Tom?
Oh gosh,
Okay.
I mean, I know it. It's just
right. If you said it, I'd be like, "Yep, that's it." But anyway, Sabre and Taichi are going to face the Gorillas of Destiny, who came in and won the World Tag League back in November, December, and won this right for the title shot here at Wrestle Kingdom. Wrestle Kingdom is often a time when lots of title changes happen. It's kind of a reset for the new year. And Sabre Jr. and Taichi have been having a good run. The Dangerous Techers. Thank you very much, Annette. I knew she would know it. We were calling out that we didn't know it. If she hadn't fallen asleep, I knew she would have our back. The Dangerous Techers. But Sabre and Taichi has come so far in the last, say, year, maybe in 6 months, since they've been back from the pandemic. He's gone from a guy that I really could have cared less and usually kind of skipped his matches or really wasn't paying much attention because I just didn't like anything he was doing, to somebody who has my attention now. And Sabre Jr. I've been a fan of for years. I probably became really solidified my fandom of him when we were in Dallas. Got to see him work the Evolve and the WWN shows, and got to see him and Chris Hero have an excellent Last Man Standing, if I remember right, match. I think that's what it was. Right in front of me, sitting front row at Mercury Rising that year. Heck of a match. Chris Hero, where are you? Come back. We need you. We need a hero. But anyways, that's a different story. I don't expect to see Chris Hero at Wrestle Kingdom, although I would jump off my couch or out of my chair if that happened on Monday or Tuesday night. All of that said, I just think the Gorillas of Destiny win the titles here. I don't know why. Again, talking about be nice to do something new. Ghetto falls back into some, patterns, I feel like. And Gorillas of Destiny with the IWGP tag titles, I think makes sense. I also think it frees up Taichi and perhaps Zack Sabre to move into singles and do some other things there. And I think, especially with Taichi, they've got plans for him in the future. So I think that's part of this. But I'm going to go with the Gorillas of Destiny here as the tag champs.
I'm surprised because the way you were talking, I thought for sure that the Techers were your pick. And I was, yeah. You had me going down path, and then you went, no, watch this.
The Russo swerve.
Watch this turn. I agree with your last point there. That I also see, and for me, I think it's more Zack Sabre than it is Taichi, but I may be wrong there. And maybe we're just wishful thinking because I have some of the same feelings about Zack Sabre as you do from, having seen him back in 2016 and watched him continue to, for lack of a better term, evolve to the point where now he's been a staple in New Japan. I was going to go with the Gorillas right from the jump because I feel like unfortunately this is the predictable part of the card almost every year, and that the team that wins the
World Tag
League. The World Tag League. I was going to call it the World Tag Cup, and I was like, no, you can't say that. Yeah, World Tag League is destined to win the titles when they get to Wrestle Kingdom. So as much as I want to deviate, I want to stick with my gut, so I'm going to also go Gorillas of Destiny to win those titles. The one thing that concerns me with that pick is just, again, that longevity of wanting to be in Japan, and how does that travel back and forth look like? Again, I don't think it's unreasonable to have 6-week tours of Japan. That's not uncommon. That's kind of how it's been done for years and years and years. But I think travel has gotten better, where talent doesn't necessarily have to box themselves in that way. But we're still in the middle of a pandemic. So again, a lot of words to share your pick.
And Japan, I believe, does still have a 14-day quarantine when you come in from outside of the country. So that definitely plays. I think you're wise to think that way. I don't know if Tama Tonga and Tongaloa have family, if they're married, or what their situation is, if they're back here, if they're in well, they clearly weren't in Japan because they weren't there to start with. But that'd be interesting to see. The next match, and Tom, you're going to have the first pick on this match, is the U.S. title contract match. So Kenta won the U.S. New Japan Cup for a title shot at the U.S. title currently held by Jon Moxley. He was supposed to defend that against Juice Robinson, but Juice Robinson has a broken orbital bone. So now the match is Kenta versus Satoshi Kojima. Tom?
Yeah, so we talk about confidence points every once in a while. This is that match that would get the highest amount of confidence points for me. So Kenta is my pick. I don't know. I'm really intrigued more so than the outcome of this match here about where and how does New Japan get Moxley back into the mix. Because with his AEW commitments and them running weekly or bi-weekly, for lack of a better term, because they're recording every 2 weeks at a time, it seems, they have to get the belt off of him, I think. But who knows? Maybe they don't. So, yeah, Kenta retains the briefcase here. Nothing against Kojima because he's really entertaining. I actually really enjoyed seeing him live when Ring of Honor was here in Grand Rapids in 2019, May of 2019, which again also doesn't feel like a year and a half ago. Who I think I would have maybe preferred here in this spot, only because of his performances that I think were incredible in the return of New Japan, would have been Yuji Nagata. But I don't want to nitpick, so Kenta is my pick.
Kenta's going to be my pick here too, and here is my prediction. Kenta wins this match. I think it is interesting. Jon Moxley has been announced to be returning to AEW on the January, well, it was supposed to be tomorrow night on the 30th show. That obviously has changed because New Year's Smash has now moved to the 6th and the 13th, both of which will be taped on the 6th, I've read. Moxley is supposed to return on those shows since losing the title. I don't know that he would have returned on the tomorrow. I think Jon Moxley's in Japan. And I think he'll be flying back right after the 5th to get back in time just for the 6th. I don't know how they would have swung it, but they could have written some story about, Jon Moxley was jumped in the hotel and will be here next week now or something, had they actually had the show tomorrow night that wasn't a Brody Lee memorial, unfortunately. I think it's telling in some ways that Jon Moxley is not on the show tomorrow night. Even though he hasn't returned, I don't think that would have stopped him or AEW from using him if he was available, because he and Brody Lee had a lot of history, both in the ring and apparently personally as well. I think Moxley's in Japan. I think Kenta is going to win this match. Yeah, Kojima's not winning this match. I agree with you. On the confidence points thing, this is my 11, if we're going to pick all 11 of these matches, right? But I think he starts running his mouth after, and the music hits. Jon Moxley comes out. I think we get the U.S. title match on the 5th, and I think Kenta probably wins that title. We're not picking that match because it hasn't been announced, but that's my prediction, is Jon Moxley comes out. I hope I haven't ruined a surprise for you if it happens. I certainly have absolutely no insider knowledge. It's just my own. Nobody I've read has said that he's in Japan. I'm reading a little bit of the tea leaves. And I think he's there, going to drop the belt and come back. We don't have a 14-day quarantine in the U.S. when you come back. There's some suggestions, but there's nothing written in rules. So that's my prediction. But ultimately, Kenta wins this match. No question about it to me. The next one, oh boy. Hiroshi Tanahashi versus the Great Okan. Oh boy. I can go both ways on this match. The little bit I've seen of the Great Okan, he's got a really cool look. The in-ring stuff, it's not New Japan level to me at this point. And I almost feel like they're kind of presenting like he's the leader of the Empire. There have been just things they've done that make me think like they're saying, well, the Great Okan, he's the leader of the Empire. Like, no, Will Ospreay should be the leader of the Empire, people. Like, let's not get that confused. Okan is his muscle. That's like, this is easy, people. So I think it's whether they want to continue this push with the Great Okan. If they do, Okan wins this match and he beats Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom. If the bloom is off the rose, is that that's saying a little bit with the Okan push, then I think it's Tanahashi. And from what I think I remember seeing, they've kind of gotten the best of Tanahashi at a couple of different turns here along the way to Wrestle Kingdom. If I'm remembering things that I've read, I haven't paid super, super close attention to these Road 2 shows by any stretch of the imagination. And it's Wrestle Kingdom, and so usually baby faces go over Wrestle Kingdom. So I'm going to take Tanahashi, but boy, I'm not feeling great about that pick.
Yeah, my pick's going to be the same. So bummer that we're all the same across the board. But my reasoning is a little bit different.
Down Kojima for you, wasn't that right, Kojima?
For me, this is, I don't want to call it a make good, because Tanahashi's a legend and he deserves everything and more in terms of New Japan. And there's going to be a time where, he does move down the card, and, just like Kojima and Nagata and other legends are kind of where they are now, there's probably going to be that point at some point in the future for Tanahashi, but it's not today and it's not now. He was a good soldier in the World Tag League, and that was a really great team, but they also didn't do anything. So this is a big-time show. He's a big-time talent. Okan is still young. He's got a look. And when that's what you can say, for now, you go with the veteran here. So Tanahashi is my pick as well.
So, Tom, that brings us to, I guess, this co-main event for night one, Kazuchika Okada versus Will Ospreay. This obviously being built off of their match the last night of the G1. I think it was the last night of their block, anyways, of the G1, when Ospreay turned and the Empire formed. You get the first pick on this one. So, Okada, Ospreay, what say you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kazuchika Okada. This is a tough one for me. I think you could go either way. I feel, though, the story is Okada getting revenge, and what better and bigger stage than to get revenge than at Wrestle Kingdom. I thought I read somewhere that this actually might close the show. I know that it's listed on the website differently, and in New Japan, in true to form fashion, typically doesn't deviate from that. And maybe they don't. Maybe this is the semi-main of a double main event. But if it closes the show, they're going to go nuts, and I can't wait, because they had a great match in the G1. So
right, that led up to that turn. This is another one I could go either way, because I think Ospreay could use the win, but yet he does have that win back at the G1. So I agree with you. It probably is the redemption and the revenge storyline that plays through here. And Okada winning at Wrestle Kingdom just is kind of like The Undertaker, right? He doesn't always win at Wrestle Kingdom, obviously, but it's kind of his show a little bit. So I'm going to go Okada too, although I won't be stunned if Ospreay wins, especially if maybe we get another new member of the Empire. There's 3 right now. Maybe there's a 4th one that shows up. I don't know. I don't know who that would be. I have absolutely no prediction on that if that happens, but that would be the way I would. If Ospreay wins, it would be because that happens. For Okada, who that, Ghetto's already turned on him. So, who that would be. I don't know. Osprey's turned on him like, Okada's turned into Sting. I don't know. Everybody turns on him. But these two should have an absolute. It's probably the match on night one that I'm looking most forward to be perfectly honest, notwithstanding the match we're about to talk about, which will be excellent as well. But if I had to rank them, this would, be like a 1 and 1A kind of thing, but this would probably be my number one just because of the story behind it. And I feel like there's a little more, I'm always up for the grudge matches. There's a good, you want to see somebody get their butt kicked. And I don't think you have that in the main event as much. And you've got it here in this match. So I feel like that piece puts it over the edge for me as the one I'm most looking forward to. Although, that all being said, let's talk about the main event of night number one. It is the IWGP Heavyweight title and Intercontinental title match. Like I said, I feel like they've done this. I said this to you before we recorded. I feel like they've done this at every Wrestlekingdom for the last 7 years. They haven't, but Tetsuya Naito versus Kota Ibushi for the title. Wrestlekingdom to me, and this might be tipping my hat as we get towards night 2 as well. Wrestlekingdom last year, Kota Ibushi went 0-2. This year's Wrestlekingdom to me is all about Kota Ibushi's redemption tour. So I think these two don't have bad matches together. They just don't. The one thing I hope they stop is doing all of the head dropping stuff because they're going to kill each other at some point or severely maim one or the other. Naito has taken some head drop duplexes on the apron in their matches previously that scare the crap out of me. Like, don't do that. You're good enough. You don't need it, guys. But I think this is going to be a gangbusters match. I think it's going to go at least 35, 40 minutes. And Kota Ibushi is going to walk out your IWGP heavyweight champion after night one and Intercontinental champion, which I don't know how they'll do it, but please split these titles apart and let that Intercontinental title be what it needs to be.
Well, I honestly didn't believe we would have gotten here, but we are. And we're 6 for 6. Because I also believe Ibushi wins the belts. Thinking back about, Naito having the titles and the path they might have gone on, and then Evil, and then the titles coming back, and then now here we are. I agree with you. The story is for Ibushi to finally secure the titles, and I can't wait for them to have an amazing match. Again, I want them to be safe, and Ibushi is kind of in that Hiromu Takahashi vein of being a little bit nuts and a little dangerous. I think he's gotten a little bit better over the years, but you cringe sometimes when some of those moves happen the way they do. So Ibushi becomes the champion, and let's see where Tetsuya Naito goes in 2021.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting story to watch, especially if we're right about this. So we're going to move in straight into night 2 and get rid of Naito and Ibushi there. The first 2 things we're just going to have a little conversation around, very short, I would assume. We have the Stardom matches for night 2 have been announced. They're going to be pre-show as well. I hope they're shown on NJPW Worlds because I don't think last year's Stardom matches were, if I remember right. But they've announced them in a way that makes me think they will be. Opening match 1 and 2, both Stardom exhibitions. There's a 6-woman tag team match. AZM, I don't know if that's AZM or AZM, but AZM, Saya Kamitani and Utami Hayashishida are taking on Natsupoi, Himeka, and Maika.
Jim, you're a boss. I wouldn't have tried, so you're a boss.
We're not going to pick winners on that because I'll be honest, Stardom is something I have not seen. I've seen little bits here and there, and I have not. I don't know any of these women. I hope they show it on NJPW World because I'd like to watch it. I'd like to give them my time to see this match and see the abilities of these women because I hear a lot of good things about Stardom. So I hope we get a chance to see these matches, Tom. The tag team match is Tam Nakano, not Tom like Tom Bobo, Tom Tam Nakano, the illegitimate love child of Tom Bobo and Bull Nakano. And Mayu Iwatani, who would be the one name I do know out of this from her time in Ring of Honor, against Yuri and Giala. Oh boy, I butchered that name. Iwatani's team wins that match because she's the one name I know. But again, I'm joking about not knowing, unfortunately, who these ladies are, not because I don't respect what they do. I just haven't watched Stardom. So I hope I get a chance to see both of these matches and really see, what the hubbub's about with these ladies, because I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, I can't say much more than what you said, and I agree. I would love to see them in the ring and see what they do.
And I also want to listen to Kevin Kelly try and pronounce their names. But he'll get coaching on it. I did not. So we'll find out some of that. But I will say Iwatani, I was impressed with her in the matches I did see in Ring of Honor. So looking forward to seeing her again and then see these other ladies as well. The KOPW match will also be on night 2, the 4 winners. Here's going to be my one plea to Ghetto. Do not put it back on Toru Yano. Do something different with it now. You did the Yano thing. That was fun. Put him in so that he's in this match. Fine. I'm good with that. But I'm going to go Ishii just to do something with Ishii because I feel like he's kind of rudderless at this point in New Japan. I know he's gotten up there in age. You wouldn't know it in the ring. The dude's still awesome. So I'm going to go Ishii, but boy, I would have zero confidence in saying that because I don't even know if he's going to be in that match.
Yeah, and a guy that came to mind when we were talking about this in the last set of picks, and I'm glad I held on to it in my memory banks, Minoru Suzuki. I'd love to see Minoru Suzuki be one of the 4. And if you're thought about the trophy or the title, if you will, changing hands throughout the course of the year, I think him winning it here, if that were to be the case, and then losing it, again, the guy's Teflon. Oh, yeah. Doesn't matter. So, but it would be cool. It'd be cool and fun to see.
And good thought on him. Hey, put Suzuki and Ishii both in this 4-way, and cool. You got me sold. That'd be fun. Those are 2 guys I enjoy a lot. So, I think there's some other names we can think about, junior heavyweights maybe who aren't in other matches and things like that. But you could see David Finlay probably in that Rambo since he's normally with Juice, but Juice was going to have a singles match anyways, and now isn't there. Maybe David Finlay works that, but we'll see. I don't see David Finlay as the KOPW for 2021. So, all right, let's get to matches we're actually picking. Let's see. Yeah, I picked first. Yes, because we had 6 matches. Yep. So I picked first the last match, so you would pick first here this match. That's what I was trying to say there. It's the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Title match. El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru, the champions, defend against Master Wato, not Vato. It's not Hispanic, Jim. It's Japanese. Master Wato and Ryusuke, I never say his name right, Taguchi, the coach. Tom, what's happening with these junior tag belts?
They're staying where they are. So Kanemaru and Desperado are my pick. I don't know how good I feel about that, but I think that's the right move to make. I don't think Wato and Taguchi are the next team, but I couldn't tell you who is the next team. The thing I really want to talk about, Jim, is as you've watched New Japan, whenever you see El Desperado.
Yes.
I didn't hear. Sorry, you broke up. I didn't hear what you said.
I said, have I watched New Japan?
when you have the opportunity, and again, we had that amazing G1 stretch where we were locked in. Like, it was also warm outside then. Let's go back in time. If we can have no COVID and go back in time to the G1, sign me up. I watched more New Japan in a 3-week stretch than I watched in my entire life. That's facetious. The question I have for you is, in your New Japan watching, when you see Desperado, do you think as well as I do about him being a Scooby-Doo villain?
I did not think that was what you were about to ask me. Perhaps he is a Scooby-Doo villain, and Master Wato just sounds like somebody who would help the gang out, right? And help them unmask the nasty villain. If it wasn't for those rats, those rotten kids. I thought you were going to ask. I think Desperado has gotten a lot better lately. He's kind of gone from a guy that before I was like, oh yeah, he's going to lose everything. Kind of Tai Chi level, but Tai Chi, I just didn't care about. Desperado, I at least was like, okay, he's going to lose, but All right. He was maybe a step above Taichi for me before. Now he's at least even or way above Taichi for me. Desperado's gotten very, very good. Sounds like he had a heck of a best of the Super Juniors. I'm sad to say I saw none of it. But part of me thinks that that's why they lose the tag team titles here. I'm going with Master Wato and Taguchi. So we have our first match that we have some difference on. I'm not super confident on it, and I don't think Wato and Taguchi hang on to these titles very long. Maybe they lose them back to Desperado and Kanemaru. Maybe they lose them to some other pairing, maybe a Bullet Club pairing of Ishimori and Phantasmo, something like that. There's another piece why I think Hiromu wins on night one, because otherwise you got a Bullet Club match on night two. Don't know that they've teased enough Bullet Club dissension, but not at the junior heavyweight ranks. But I think Wato and Taguchi win this match. I think Wato is somebody they're certainly behind. He's gotten better. He kind of got over like a fart in church when he got, they did these really cool vignettes about the Master of the Way or the Way of the Dragon or whatever it was. And then when he debuted, I think even the reaction online and that, because I don't think they had crowds back yet by that point, was a little bit like, who's that guy? Why is he here? And then he had his first match and they were like, okay. He did a couple good things, but I think he's pretty good. And I think he gets a junior tag title run here with Taguchi. So that's my pick for that match. Now we're going to the Hoss fight, never open weight title match, Shingo and Jeff Cobb. This one is one I've actually given a little bit of thought to. Some of my picks, I can't say I've given a ton of thought to before our conversation here. This is one I have been thinking about a little bit because I can go either way on this. And I see that I have Shingo's name misspelled, which is awesome. But it's Takai thing instead of Takagi. Top guy, FDR. But Shingo and Cobb, they put Cobb into the Empire. They've clearly tried to make him be a little more brutal and a little more, it makes sense for Cobb. He can throw people around. This is going to be really fun. I like these kind of strong style matches where they're just going to beat the tar out of each other. I wouldn't be stunned to see Cobb win the title here. And you know what? What the heck? I'm going to go with Jeff Cobb because if we have the Great Okan and Ospreay lose on night one, the Empire needs a win somewhere. So I'm going to go Jeff Cobb and not be shocked if Shingo wins. Seeing the look on your face means you also, I believe, might be going with Jeff Cobb.
I'm not going to, because I want this to be a competition. But that is exactly the thought I had. I go in my head. I say my internal monologue says, if the Empire goes 2 down on night one, of course the redemption comes here when Cobb wins, and that may be very well how it plays out. I could really see it happening. And again, I think Jeff Cobb is probably long for the world in New Japan. As much as I would love to see him back in Ring of Honor, or I don't know how things didn't work out in AEW, dude. You have to. I want to know the backstory on that. Anyway, I'm gonna go with Shingo because I've got a man crush on Shingo. That's been very clear on this podcast. It's not going anywhere in 2021. I heart you, Shingo. Shingo's my pick.
In case Shingo is watching or listening to the Two Spot Monkeys here, one can hope.
So you're saying he doesn't?
Does he speak English? I'm not sure. I honestly don't know the answer to that question. Again, I will say this is probably that Shingo Jeff Cobb match. Maybe the match I'm looking most forward to on night 2. Some people might pick some other matches, but that might be the one just because I like both guys. I'm a big fan of both guys. So I'm looking forward to that one. Annette is stunned by, I'm not sure what it was that stunned her, but there's a stunned face in the comments. Maybe by me saying that it's the match I most want to see. We're going to move on to the next match, which, Tom, you get the first pick for. It's tag team former tag team partners exploding. Sonata versus Evil. They have had some singles matches, I think, and certainly tags and six mans and all of those since Evil turned. But this is certainly the most high profile singles match they've had since Evil's turn. So Sonata versus Evil. What say you, Mr. Bobo?
Yeah, I think this is going to be really good. I'm excited for it, and I think that if you were listening earlier, I know you were listening, but if you were really listening earlier, you know that I'm picking Sonata in this match because I see Sonata on the rise up, and Evil not necessarily on the rise down, but Evil did his escalation. He's now going to kind of go back down the ranks a little bit, and it's Sonata's time to put himself in that IWGP title picture. At least for early 2021. And again, if one of my predictions comes true, he'll be potentially holding that title sometime next year.
My thought is, if not now, when for Sonata? It seemed like maybe they were going to do it a few different times over the years. And I kind of feel like at some point, if you don't do it, he's never going to get there. Or when he does, nobody's going to care. So I think Sonata needs this win, and I think Sonata gets this win. Sonata is really, really good in the ring. Charisma is a little bit different than a lot of the other guys who are at the top of the card, which I think is a good thing. I think that's okay. But Sonata's my pick here as well. I feel like Evil kind of, like you said, had a shot, and I feel like they've kind of gone, oh, okay, that didn't really work. And now, Evil will have his place, but it wouldn't stun me by the end of the year, to be perfectly honest. Here's a prediction. I don't know if it's a prediction, but wouldn't stun me to see Evil back in LIJ by the end of the year. Whenever Bullet Club has their explosion, he realizes that Geto lied to him or whatever, and he ends up, back in the good graces with Naito. Because he just doesn't fit really in Bullet Club for me. Whether this is the start of any of that or not, I have no idea. But Sonata is my win, and a pretty high confidence level that Sonata wins this match. And I'm not shocked that you picked him either, Tom, especially after what you said earlier. As we were talking, I was listening earlier to that.
Before you make your next pick, I just want to encourage you that if you haven't yet, find a friend sometime and put them in the Paradise Lock, and then just walk away.
Okay, good. Not a wife, a friend.
Yes. Yeah. Your wife would not appreciate that.
No. The semi-main for night 2, unless maybe we get a Kenta Moxley match or something like that, but the semi-main as it is right now is the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title match between Taiji Ishimori and what you and I both believe will be Hiromu Takahashi, who we both have beating El Fantasma on night 1. So picking it as that match, I think we get a new champion here again. Again, titles change a lot on Wrestle Kingdom, so I won't be stunned by that. I think it's time for Hiromu to have the title back because I don't think that we're going to build, since I had Naito losing the title on night 1, I don't think we're going back towards that Takahashi-Naito match that was supposed to happen before the pandemic hit. Or if they get to it, they'll get to it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be for the title. I think Hiromu Takahashi wins the junior heavyweight title, and this is going to be a phenomenal match as well. Both of these guys are awesome. I know I feel like I've said that a lot during this because New Japan usually has super high quality matches, and Wrestle Kingdom especially. Usually they have super high quality matches, and I have no doubt that this will be phenomenal. I think Phantasmo and Ishimori would have a good match too. I just don't think that's what we're getting on night 2. So Hiromu Takahashi, my pick to be the junior heavyweight champion coming out of Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, I agree. I can't disagree with your pick or your logic there. I think that the story is made to be told in this way. I want to say that there was an Ishimori Takahashi match in Best of Super Juniors 2019. It may have been even the year before, but I remember that match, whenever it was, whichever year it occurred in, was fantastic. And I think they are going to equal, if not exceed that, this time around in the Dome. So, yes, Hiromu Takahashi regains the junior title.
All right, which means we have one match left, and it is the culmination of the 2 double title matches. The IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental title match, the winner of Tetsuya Naito and Kota Ibushi will defend against Jay White, who actually beat Kota Ibushi for the right to challenge here at Wrestle Kingdom, which Ibushi had won from the G1, which is pretty rare in Wrestle Kingdom, and in New Japan, that somebody actually wins that right from the person who wins the G1. So big thing for Jay White there. Tom, you get the first pick, though. Who's walking out of Wrestle Kingdom Night 2, the top dog in New Japan?
Yeah, so as I consider this pick, I know who I'm going with, but it's very interesting because I think you could tell a couple of different stories. Going back to the potential idea that Kenta and Moxley is the match that eventually happens. Maybe it happens in Japan next week. If Kenta wins that title, how better than another Bullet Club member in the Switchblade than winning the title here and dashing Ibushi's hopes and having a feuding top of the card Bullet Club members? Or does New Japan say, hey, you know what? We don't necessarily need both guys to have titles. Let's let Kenta be the guy that wins and Jay White doesn't. And then Jay White eventually lets his angst get the better of him. And that's what leads to some disintegration, if you will, in the Bullet Club. Or one other aspect is, again, does the Ibushi story have to be told with him winning 2 nights in a row? Is winning the title on night 1 just enough? And then is there a longer-term story between he and Jay White where he just can't get the Duke? I'm going to go with that path. I think there's a lot of ways they can go, and they will go, and I can't wait to see how it plays out. But I see Jay White winning the titles and dethroning Ibushi and having that be kind of the thing that he hangs over his head as we move into 2021, where Ibushi just can't overcome Jay White when something big is on the line, and we get a payoff of some sort in regards to that later on in the year.
Interesting. I had already written down Ibushi for you because I was sure that's what you were going to say. That could all happen, but I'm still picking Kota Ibushi. So interesting that you went that way. I see what you're saying there, and I think that's interesting. And I think I wouldn't be stunned if it happens, to be perfectly honest. But that's not what I'm picking, because Jay White beat Kota Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom last year. Jay White beat Kota Ibushi for the right to challenge here at Wrestle Kingdom, and if it wasn't for Naito saying I won't defend the title unless it's against Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom, that then night 1 doesn't happen in storyline mode. I think this is all about establishing Kota Ibushi as the guy moving forward in New Japan, the face of New Japan. I think Jay White is absolutely the top heel, and I think that this feud doesn't end here. But I think for one night, Ibushi gets that long-awaited Duke, as you said, over Jay White. So I'm going Kota Ibushi, which gives us 3 matches out of 11 that we differed on, which is kind of amazing on one hand, and yet not totally shocking on the other hand. But those 3 matches that we differed on were the Junior Heavyweight Tag Title match, the Shingo and Jeff Cobb Never Openweight title match, and now the final match on night 2. So we will not know the final score after this head-to-head until Wrestle Kingdom is all done, since the main event is one of our differences, which is kind of fun. I don't know about you, Tom. I have every intention to watch these shows while I'm working on Monday and Tuesday from home. I'm able to work on my computer, and I should be able to give them pretty good attention while still staying attentive to the things that I need to get done on the computer, maybe taking a long lunch, something like that. But I intend to watch these both on Monday and on Tuesday after I get up. I am not getting up at 3 a.m. or whatever it is to watch them. Are you going to give it a shot to do that? I know you've talked about it in the past.
I want to. I've got a big week for work next week with the return to school. I work in school-based programming, and we have a couple of virtual things that are kicking our week off, and I'm very much in the mix on both of those mornings. So I'm going to be very diligent. We hadn't talked to resolutions. We talked about predictions, but two resolutions I'd love to share quickly. One, I'm going to work really hard. I hope, I pray, at muting some social media in 2021. I think I've been spoiled, not horribly, but just I've been spoiled. There's been times I've seen spoilers, and it's taken me out of my desire to watch a show. I want to watch and experience pro wrestling as it's live, as it's even if it's not live, it's on demand without the knowledge of what's happened. So I'm gonna really mute social media. I'm gonna probably be offline for a couple of days outside of like work, items and whatnot. So hopefully I can do that well, and then do my best to watch them in the evenings or late afternoons. The second resolution, and I don't want this to come across at all in a bad way towards myself. But it's in full transparency that I say, hey, when I watch wrestling, I like to enjoy a couple beverages. I love bourbon. I love craft beer. And I want to watch wrestling fully sober for 2021. So I'm going to do my best to not drink alcohol and have that influence or impact how I perceive or view wrestling. So lots of coffee, probably, especially if I'm watching early in the morning or late at night, so I can stay awake, especially. But yeah, I'm going to try to watch wrestling through the lens of not being at all chemically imbalanced in 2021. So 2 resolutions there. Went on a little bit of a tangent, rabbit trail. Thanks for hanging with me. But yeah, so I know that I will commit to watching both of these shows before we record next week, because I want to know. I want to come back, and I want to be able to strut into the podcast world in 2021, hopefully with my head held high.
Much like Kota Ibushi rising from the ashes at Wrestle Kingdom, I will be rising from the ashes of the Fiend for our head-to-head this year is my hope. So we'll see. Maybe I should just stop overthinking things sometimes. I think probably it'd help a lot. That'd be a good resolution. Well, you know what? We restarted this podcast way back in March or April. I think it might have been April. Late April. Yeah, I think it was mid to late April after WrestleMania. We didn't know then whether we were going to continue doing this, if this was going to be kind of a one-off, what was going to do. But we recorded 28 episodes of this podcast in 2020, more than one every other week. And that's with us starting more than 4 months into, or in the 4th month of the year, along with a lot of things in our own personal lives, work and other things, and some tragic things and things like that have happened in our lives throughout this last year. So I think, if nothing else, Tom, I want to thank you for committing and re-energizing to do this with me. And I'm looking forward to 2021. And of course, we're not going to promise that we're going to have an episode every single week in 2021. We'd love to, but the realistic of life is just that's not going to happen. Let's be honest. So there's no reason to set a resolution we know we will fail at. But I'm looking forward to the continuation of this podcast, the continuation of us doing these head-to-head things and talking about other things, going back and doing some retro wrestling stuff. I was watching some things today on the Black Scorpion angle from back with WCW back in 1990. It's terrible stuff, but it kind of sucked me in for a little bit. Ole Anderson doing the voice and all that awfulness. But maybe we'll do some like wrestle crap episodes too, of just some of the bad stuff we've watched over the years. But thanks for being on this ride with me, Tom. And thanks to everybody who listens. We still have one person listening live. Annette, if that's you, awesome. Thank you for hanging in there. If it's not you, hello to whoever it is. But thanks to everybody who listens. Thanks to everybody who downloads it. We just have a blast doing this. So it's something we look forward to.
In the most sincere way possible. We are like a roller coaster ride with the tracks not known ahead of us. And that's a good thing. And I enjoy that about this. And as much as we do put time and energy and effort, we balance a lot of hats. We juggle a lot of balls. We spin a lot of plates, whatever analogy you want to use. So thanks for those who do listen, who do give us your time. Again, if you treat podcasts like I do as a way to break from reality, hopefully we are that for you. And I'm really excited to wrap up this year. Thanks to you. I appreciate your energy and your enthusiasm and your idea to bring this back. And we're still here. And again, the roller coaster is on the tracks, and let's keep the ride going.
Absolutely. I did see it was Annette who's hung in with us through the whole episode. So, Annette, thanks for being here. And again, everybody have a great New Year's. This will probably go up on the podcast forums on Wednesday morning because I'm probably just not going to get it done tonight before I go to bed. I'm going to be honest about that. It'll probably go up on those platforms on Wednesday morning. So whenever you're hearing this, if it's before or after the New Year's, have a safe New Year's, please. Please be safe. And that goes pandemic or not. Be safe because we all want to be together in 2021 and hopefully at some point in 2021 or 2022. I'd love to be together with everybody who's listening to this and watching a wrestling show together again. That is the ultimate goal, I think, at this point. So everybody have a great New Year's. We will talk to you soon. Stay safe. We'll see you next year. Ha, ha, ha. Take care, everybody.